Well, Ronald Reagan kicked off his 1980 campaign, I believe, in Mississippi. Why was that significant?
Well, it wasn't just in Mississippi, it was in Neshoba County, Mississippi, where the side of the three civil rights workers, James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner, had been slain by Klansmen in 1963. So this was a place that was steeped in a racial history, steeped in meaning for Mississippians. It was Trent Lott who brought him to give a speech there. And Reagan says in that speech, "Like you, I believe in states' rights," which is, he could have meant any number of things, but clearly a certain message was carried forth in that moment.
What is the state, in your view, of today's new right or conservative movement?
I think we are kind of at a twilight of the Reagan Revolution, and in fact many of the soldiers of that revolution say the same thing, Pat Buchanan, Newt Gingrich, and others, that I think what happens in American political history is that certain ideas dominate and certain political imperatives shape the landscape. And then over time they start to wane as new political questions arise and new circumstances arise and new players come onto the scene to change political identities. And I think now, in some ways, like democratic liberalism in the 1970s, the Republican right has kind of run out of gas, or is in an era of splintering and major internal fights over the future direction of the party. I mean, it was interesting to see in the primaries, the Republican primaries, you had a whole range of candidates, none of whom could fully credibly claim conservative credentials, and yet all of them invoking Reagan over and over.
And what does that mean for the South?
You know, the South is very much in play in a way that it has not been in a generation. In this last national election, presidential election, you saw it in North Carolina, and not in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi. Across the South, I think black voters are playing a more decisive role than they have. Previously, Latino voters are playing a more decisive role. And I think white voters are themselves much more fragmented. And part of this has to do with changing political identities. Part of it has to do with strong enforcement of the Voting Rights Act in the South, more so recently, which has opened up a lot of territory to exciting change.
Now, this is your first book. What's your day job?
My day job is a political science professor. I teach at the University of Oregon in Eugene.
And what are you teaching?
I teach American politics. Right now I'm teaching a course on comparative conservatism, U.S. and Europe, with my great colleague Cass Muda. And I teach a course right now on racial politics from the mid-20th century to the present.
When it comes to comparative politics between the U.S. and Europe in conservatives, what's the difference?
One difference is that America was founded on kind of liberal classical liberal ideas in a way that European states don't have. And so here, if you look at the origins of American conservatism, you see strains of Hamilton's ideas about manufacture and capitalism and markets and centralized power, and Jeffersonian notions of anti-statism and pastoralism, kind of blending together into a conservative movement in the 20th century. And so here there's no clear Burkean or Tory tradition. Whigs lacked either an aristocracy to fight or to ally with, or a mob to defend against. And so in some ways you don't have feudal traditions in the same way.
Professor Joseph Lowndes of the University of Oregon, From the New Deal to the New Right, Race and the Southern Origins of Modern Conservatism.